Husband refuses a vasectomy and forbids me from sterilization, so I'm secretly scheduling a consultation for my own procedure. I, 28F, and my partner, 28 male, have 2 children together and have been married for 8 years. For those 8 years I've either been on birth control when we were preventing pregnancy or tracking my cycle when we were trying to conceive. Adding this just to give the community the context that reproductive responsibility has always fallen on my shoulders. Recently we discussed the possibility of being done with children since we have our 2 and the family really feels complete. My partner is in agreement that a 3rd child is off the table for him as well. So with that I thought great. I can bring up sterilization for either him or I. The reason I wanted this is because I've had every form of birth control before and none of them ever left me feeling 100% okay, so I wanted to be done with birth control completely since we both agreed we're done. It's been about 3 months since our talk about more children, so I brought up either getting a vasectomy for him or me getting a salpingectomy, removing my fallopian tubes. What I thought would be a productive conversation completely blew up. He outright refused a vasectomy, and when I was okay with that and said I'd happily get a salpingectomy, he completely flipped his shit on me, screaming at me about how he forbids it from happening and he won't allow me to damage myself like that. I ended up just leaving the conversation and headed to get our kids from school, but on the way I ended up calling my gynecologist to schedule a consultation for the salpingectomy after making sure I won't need my spouse's approval. Update 1. Due to the support and advice I found on here, I managed to get the confidence and level headspace needed to try to have another conversation with my partner. After getting our children to their school/daycare for the day, I went to our local coffee shop to pick us up each a cup. I figured it can either be seen as a show of care or a peace offering. Once I got home, he was sitting at our island doom scrolling through TikTok. I think we've all been there. I decided standing across from him would be a bit of a better choice, so I gave us our respective cups and asked if I could get his attention for a conversation. Well, what I hoped would be productive turned unproductive quickly as he sighed with an eye roll and turned off his phone. I started by asking the big question of if he wanted any more children. I even suggested he doesn't think about what I said on the subject and just tell me his feelings about more children. With it, he answered a firm no and told me, as he said before, a 3rd child is and will always be off the table. I then asked him if he had any fears or concerns about surgery/medical procedures. He said no to this question as well. So I asked if he understood the procedure and what it entailed, and he said yes he does, which is why he doesn't want me to get it done. In his words, I wouldn't be a woman if I got any part of my reproductive organs, what makes me a woman, removed, and he refuses to allow me down that path. I then followed up by asking about his getting a vasectomy, and he said it's pretty much the same thing for men and he won't let anyone take away if manhood. The final question I managed to ask was, did he just expect me to be on birth control forever? And this man looked me in M-face and said, it's worked so well for me already, why change things up? Guys, as I stated in my previous post, I am miserable and in debilitating pain with birth control. At the end of this I just grabbed my coffee and went sit on our porch, just trying to wrap my head around the conversation while he sit in the house acting like nothing is wrong and we're just having a normal day off together. Update 2. So to start, I've been at my sister's with the children all weekend. I told my husband that she was feeling lonely and wanted us to stay over. He believed it, as we usually try to do this once a month. I called off of work Monday so my sister and I can meet with the divorce lawyer that handled her divorce. I'm unsure if divorce will be the path I go down, but I want to get my ducks in a row before laying it all down for my husband. Also, I would like to answer some questions that I saw a lot of in my last post. Yes, I still plan to go through with the sterilization. I absolutely don't want any more children, even if this ends in divorce. I plan to tell him it's getting done no matter what he says or believes. There will definitely be no sex with him anymore. I feel like I lost all attraction and respect for him. The children don't know what's going on. They just think it's a fun time at Auntie's house. Condoms are a no. I exist because of a broken condom. I currently have an IUD, and while yes, it has been the best birth control I've been on, I still cannot function properly for a week out of the month due to pain, bleeding, and depressive episodes. No, he hasn't done anything like this before, which is what caught me so off guard with everything. Disagreements in our relationship have up until now been able to be discussed and compromised on. We grew up in a deep Catholic community but fell away from the church years ago. Oop, thank you for that. I feel like it's a total shit show on my end, but I'm trying to keep the blow up to a minimum. I know there's a chance shit will hit the fan with him due to how things have been going currently. But I don't want drama come from my end. I plan to tell him it's getting done no matter what he says or believes. Oop, thankfully our finances for the most part are separated. The only joint bank account we have is for bills and child expenses. Oop, I want the procedure for myself no matter my relationship status. I want to be done with birth control without a chance of children no matter where the future takes me. As well as the fact that this procedure reduces the risk of cervical cancer significantly, which it's common in my family, so that's A+. I haven't fallen out of love with him per se, but I truly hold no respect for him right now with how he's treated me over this. I'm unsure if we will divorce, but I feel like it might be for the best, especially if to him this will damage me. Update 3. I know a few people have been messaging me as well as commenting on a few platforms for an update on everything going on. To start off with the divorce, I'm finishing up with my lawyer to get the divorce petition written and served to my husband. That should happen before the end of this month. Last I heard from his side with the divorce, he got a lawyer for himself and once all communications going through our lawyers. I finished up sorting through our asset divisions and making a custody plan, so my lawyer has that ready to be sent over to his lawyer for any questions or concerns about it. I'm sure there will be a bit of back and forth until an agreement is met. Next, an update about the children. They now know we are separating and going through a divorce. While initially they were very upset with the news, things kind of settled and became accepted. They are in therapy individually and us as a family, so I'm hoping that stays helping them. My husband has been having them about 1 day a week, usually being Saturday during the day, as he expresses not being able to handle them alone at night. I keep him in the loop about therapy, even offering him to come if he is willing, which so far has been a no the few sessions we have had. I also make sure he knows that he is welcome to have the children more than just a day. I'm hoping he comes around to co-parenting a bit better because I know the kids do miss him. I try to communicate with him on the happening in the kids' life, such as school and extracurriculums, but he keeps pushing me to communicate through his mom. So far I have been sending them both similar messages, so there is proof I'm communicating with him directly as well as his preferred way. Lastly, my surgery. My consultation went amazingly and my surgery is scheduled for the end of June. My mom and sister will be with me through the surgery and healing process. I'm very thankful for them. My gynecologist did remove MGIUD about a week ago, and honestly I've been feeling so much better, and as each day passes I feel like I'm really coming back to myself. I'm just waiting for that first period to see if it'll be like they usually are or if I'm back to normal. I am getting a full workup though in about 2 weeks. My doc wants my hormones, vitamins, and everything checked, as well as doing a few ultrasounds to check everything. So that's really all I have going on. Nothing exciting or groundbreaking. Just a sad start to a divorce and medical stuff. Here's the real deal. Somewhere deep in his mind he thinks that now that you're getting sterilized, you're gonna be going out all the time having sex and not worrying about pregnancy, and that's why he's gonna saddle you with those kids 7 days a week so you never get a chance to date again. Force him to take his children every weekend, or at least every other weekend. Overnight update 4. So, here we are, almost exactly a month post-surgery, and about 6 days since the divorce papers were signed, notarized, filed, and a million miles away from the person I was before any of this started. First up, yes, I had my salpingectomy. My mom and sister basically tag-teamed me like I was an invalid queen. Snacks, and the kind of doting that I forgot was possible between adults. I'd convinced myself I'd pop out of anesthesia ready to run a marathon, but the body keeps receipts. I was out of commission for real household labor for the better part of 2 weeks. My insides felt like someone had tried to untangle a set of earphones and given up halfway through, but the pain didn't swallow me up the way I'd feared. And holy hell, the relief. No hormonal tidal waves, no endless pain. I had my first period back, and it was so shockingly normal that I almost cried. Less pain, less doom spiraling, just a little droopy and chocolate hungry, like a regular human being. I don't even care if that's TMI, someone out there will get how life-changing that is. Here is where it gets nuts. My ex showed up at the hospital. I kid you not. 2 hours post-op, face guarded, carrying a sad little grocery store bouquet and a card that read "Feel better soon. Let's keep things amicable for the kids." He claimed my mill sent him, though later when I checked, she'd had no clue. I let my mom and sister run interference. Honestly, I was too loopy from anesthesia to do more than blink and mutter about giraffes or whatever was on my mind. But the next day he texted me this truly bizarre message: "I hope you heal up fast. This isn't what I wanted, but I don't want you in pain. Just, please don't forget who you are. Don't change, and what do you even do with that?" I sent him a smiley face and moved on. Since the split, I'd been doing 6 days out of 7 solo, but after the therapist we're all seeing, shout out Dr. Maria, MVP of Awkward Progress, basically called him out for cognitive avoidance and manual incompetence, gently, but publicly, in her office, he agreed to take the kids every Saturday and Sunday. The first weekend, he called 6 times asking about bedtime routines and whether pasta shapes counted as a healthy dinner. By the third weekend, no calls. The kids started coming back with stories, little paper crowns with King Dad written on them, and what is apparently an epic, ongoing Nerf war between their bedrooms. For the first time, they didn't look sad leaving, or returning. Maybe a tiny bit proud. Apparently my ex tried to guilt trip my oldest by saying I just didn't want more siblings for them, but the oldest, 7, but already an aspiring lawyer, told him, "Mommy says having babies is a big decision, not just a job." He just blinked, apparently, and said, "You're right." So, baby steps. The actual day the divorce was finalized, it rained so hard the city looked like Atlantis. I almost laughed at how movie perfect it was. My ex and I sat across the table, our lawyers in between, and he wouldn't look me in the eye when he signed. It was quick, clean, and a little anticlimactic. 2 people who used to laugh at 2 a.m. and eat midnight cereal together, trading the last spoonful, for legal paperwork and electronic signatures. 8 years on a piece of paper. Afterward, he actually texted me a photo of an old birthday card I'd given him, with the message, "I thought we'd be forever. Good luck." I didn't respond. Divorce is a river you're forced to swim, but here's the plot twist. The first weekend I was actually childless and PTO free. My sister insisted I come out for board games and the world's most aggressively cheesy bar nachos. While we were elbow deep in Catan and Cheddar, this woman, totally jealous of our game setup, asked to join in. Turns out she's a doula, had also had a salpingectomy 2 years ago, and over shared cheap margaritas we traded stories of weird, patriarchal nonsense and funny uterus-shaped memes. We're not dating or anything before the internet runs wild, but that night felt like the start of the actual next chapter. Just adults living, laughing, and existing outside of who we used to be married to. I thought I'd write this and say, here's the end of the story. But it really isn't. My ex finally scheduled his own therapy sessions and actually asked if we could do one co-parenting session together. I said yes. I feel like we're, at the very least, learning how not to wound each other further, and how to focus ourselves, finally, on the kids. Also, I bought a bike. Just because, I'm learning to cook sad little Pinterest recipes and not burn the house down. The world is so much lighter off birth control. I wish I'd believed I had the right to say no sooner. But I did, eventually, and that's what matters to me now. I have no grand lesson except this: people don't change overnight, marriages don't break from nowhere, pain is sly and healing is slow. But damn, it's good to feel like my body is mine again, and my life is something that can, actually, get better. Update 5. Wow, it's wild to think I'm now almost 3 months post-op and nearly 2 months into the officially, definitely, actually divorced part of my life. Even weirder, my phone calendar just reminded me that today marks the 11-year anniversary from the night my ex and I first kissed in his parents' backyard under a string of those fake vintage lights. I had a tiny nostalgia pang, and then a huge rush of relief at where I am now. Let's start with the surprises. Just after my last update, my ex actually initiated scheduling our first joint co-parenting therapy session. The awkwardness was spectacular. He was stiff, tight-lipped, clearly expected me to start a fight, but instead Dr. Maria set rules of engagement, and kind of forced us to talk only about the kids. Miracle of miracles, it went shockingly smoothly. He said, and I quote, "I never realized how much work you did until now." If you heard someone cackling across the internet, that was my sister reading my texts during the appointment. Since then, he's loosened up a lot. We still have 2 separate WhatsApp threads, one official for kids, one for logistics, which is honestly as close as we'll get to friends, but he started asking for movie tips, kid-friendly recipes, and, get this, even sent me a link to a YouTube video from a dad who had a vasectomy and said maybe someday. Progress? I mean, only took an entire failed marriage, but hey, he's even started sending selfies with the kids at the park, or making pancakes with dinosaur-shaped cookie cutters. He signed them up for Saturday soccer. That was never him before. I know a lot of people are waiting for some burning drama or wild plot twist, but honestly, the strangest thing is the sudden, complete absence of drama. My life feels like the moment after a storm. Everything is quiet, damp, green, and new. Opportunities are poking up everywhere. My mood, still riding high after ditching the birth control from hell, has stabilized in a way I forgot was possible. Periods, boring. Body, strong again. Brain, not fogged. I've been making a big checklist of firsts to reclaim. First pool day with no fear of bloody disasters. First camping trip with my kids. I set up a tent, by myself. The pride, and first time I bought new clothes without thinking, will my husband even like this? I didn't know how much I'd missed flouncy sundresses and wild printed shorts. Okay, the kids. Our youngest, who never wanted to sleep away from me before, is suddenly excited for dad weekends, and has made it a mission to teach their dad all about frogs. I suspect this is a ploy to get a pet, but let them dream. My oldest, God, she's quick, has been a model of resilience. She drew me a divorce celebration card that reads, "I'm glad you're happy, and I love dad too even if he's weird." I cackled. Therapy continues and, against my wildest expectations, both kids seem secure. My ex even FaceTimed me for help with a hair crisis. I walked him through pigtails on camera like a YouTube tutorial. It was weirdly healing. Now, here's where things take a turn I didn't see coming. Remember the board game night and the funny doula who joined us? We actually ended up forming a little group, me, her, my sister, and another single mom friend from my kids' school. Sunday brunches became a regular thing, and what started as divorce war stories turned into honest-to-God mutual support. Who knew a WhatsApp thread named Uterus Power Squad could be so wholesome? We exchanged school lunch ideas, swap horror stories about dating apps, and review the world's best period underwear. There is truly nothing more healing than knowing other women have had the same, wait, I'm allowed to want more from life? Moment. As for me, no dating. Not yet. I signed up for a pottery class. Spoiler, I am not a natural, but I am very messy and, apparently, that's therapeutic, and joined the parent volunteer board at my kids' school. Rediscovering who I am outside of wife/mom is fun? Scary, sometimes, but mostly giddy making. I started eating weird breakfast sandwiches just because no one else is watching, and, confession, I downloaded Duolingo. My Spanish is terrible, but it's all mine. Financially, there were some bumps. The fine print of dividing a life takes longer than movies make it look, but I was lucky with our mostly separate finances. My ex fought me over the sofa, and then texted 2 weeks later to say, "Actually, you were right, it's uncomfortable." I nearly sent a middle finger emoji but just sent a polite thumbs up and moved on. Probably what you want to know is, do I regret anything? Birth control, marriage, surgery, the whole shoot? No, what I do feel, more than anything, is clear. The years I spent shouldering every reproductive responsibility were heavy. Now, I am light. I look at my body with respect, scars, flaws, and all. My doctor says my hormonal levels are evening out, my migraines are gone. I'm almost giddy with future plans, travel, maybe grad school, definitely more biking. Maybe even a tattoo? If anyone reading this is quietly suffering, or loving someone who cannot, or will not, respect their boundaries, please, know, it is not the end of your story. It might only be the messy, weird, and perfectly imperfect beginning. I am, finally, good. And I am so very enough. If you see a woman by the playground with a too loud laugh and a wild printed dress, sipping coffee and reading a dog-eared book while her kids run wild, say hi. It might be me, or, honestly, it might be your own future self, free at last. Update 6. This is the How on Earth Is This My Weirdly Ordinary Life edition, 4 months post-salpingectomy, officially deep into my first real stretch of solo adulthood since I was 19. I didn't plan to post again so soon, but a lot of you kept messaging for an update, and, well, this month delivered more new than I could have possibly imagined, in ways both hilarious and heart-thumping. So let's start at the most unexpected place, my ex. I know, you expected this guy to vanish into the oblivion of difficult co-parents forever, but plot twist, the man's gone dad mode. He's not perfect, who is? But suddenly, he's the guy buying extra sets of PJs for the kids' movie marathon night, texting me unironically about making homemade pizza with broccoli like a real grown-up. There's even a dad jokes phase, help us all. He still won't directly talk about his feelings to me, but, and this is wild, my daughter whispered, "Daddy," said sorry for being difficult about your surgery and said he wasn't thinking right. He said you're the best mom. She then made a Play-Doh uterus, so, emotional maturity and crafts. Another surprise twist, he started dating. And not in a way that makes my skin crawl. There's a woman he met at his gym's book club who apparently didn't run for the hills after the divorce dad chat. He told me up front because A, he was nervous about the kids meeting anyone who isn't nice, and B, his words, "You won't let me mess them up, right?" I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my LaCroix. When he introduced the kids, he asked me if I wanted to join for coffee, not as a trio, just so I could know her as a parent. We met at a bustling coffeehouse. She was lovely, a little anxious, and told me she admired how I picked my own healthcare path. Not friends, but not enemies. Honestly, it felt like seeing living proof there's a way forward after I do is long gone, but the real life plot now mostly belongs to me and the kids. We did our first just us vacation, 2 nights at a kitschy lakeside Airbnb with mismatched towels and a leaky kayak, which was as chaotic as you'd imagine. But get this, there were no surprise period emergencies, no scrambling for birth control, no panic planning. I just packed a swimsuit, an actual 2-piece, with zero self-consciousness about anyone's opinion except my own. We ate ice cream for dinner, found salamanders under rocks, and got caught in the rain so thoroughly that we all howled laughing. At one point, my son looked up at me, his face smeared purple from a popsicle, and said, "You seem extra happy, Mommy. Is it 'cause you're not hurting anymore?" I swallowed a lump in my throat and told him yes, and I'd try to keep it that way forever. My uterus power squad is now a force of nature. The doula, my sister, and our single mom crew roped me into co-chairing the school's new parent wellness fair, because apparently, I am a walking PSA for reproductive autonomy. Direct quote from our last brunch. We're hosting a panel on modern motherhood myths. My topic, you don't have to be tired or in pain to be a good mom. A menstrual product swap, who knew silicone cups could fuel such passionate debate. And family yoga in the parking lot. I'm not saying we're building a matriarchal mini-society in the suburbs, but we've now got a group text with whomst among us needs soup? As a standing prompt. It's the female village I never knew I'd get after marriage. On the body front, I got my first tattoo. It's small, hidden, and floral, 2 little wildflowers, for my kids, and the words "my body, my rules" in tiny script just under my ribcage. My mom loves it, my ex thinks it's kind of cool actually, and my oldest is asking how old she has to be before she can have one that says, "Queen of Frogs." Dating? Well, an acquaintance asked me out at the farmer's market. He complimented my tomato savvy. "Flirting in your 30s is so weird." I wasn't ready, told him so, but I walked away feeling not broken or pathetic, just open to whatever comes, someday, somehow. I'd love to say there's a neat ending or perfect moral. Instead, life is stuffed with weird little victories and the quiet chaos of co-parenting. I found myself humming while making coffee this morning, cheeks flushed, heart light, no impending blow-ups, no dread. Just the steady, astonishing newness of being free. Sometimes I stand in front of my full-length mirror, the one I bought after the divorce, no husband snarking about taking up space, and marvel, not at my body, but at the way I finally feel like I fit inside my own life. If you're still reading, friend, you get to have boundaries and dreams, even messy, late-blooming ones. I'm proof. Say hi if you see me at the Saturday soccer games with neon cleats and smugly healthy broccoli pizza in the snack bag, cheering for my kids, for their awkward, growing dad, and just a little for myself. Update 7. Would you ever believe self-possessed suburban PTA mom could be a plot twist? I couldn't either, but here I am, another month out, staring down Halloween decorations in August and somehow more alive, stretched, and, dare I say, hopeful than I ever imagined possible. Buckle up, because life delivered a stack of surreal, oddly beautiful new chapters. Let's open with the wildest development. I got interviewed on local radio. Yes, me, formerly mildly invisible mom with a uterus on strike. Our elementary's parent wellness fair totally blew up. Turns out suburban moms have a lot to say about setting boundaries, birth control, and advocating for your own damn body, and the town's NPR affiliate heard about us. I only agreed because the doula from my uterus power squad verbally strong-armed me. Her method: you've already bared your innards for this community, what's a little public speaking? I thought 5 people would listen. Instead, friends kept texting, are you the one ranting about dignity and menstrual cups on the drive time show? The funniest part was fielding the radio host's wide-eyed "you're amicable with your ex, how?" To which I said, when you learn to step outside pain and anger, there's room for respect, even if love changes. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt true. I left the studio vibrating with nerves, but later at pickup, 2 different moms, one who I didn't even know, high-fived me in the parking lot. Solidarity, but with backpacks and juice boxes. My eldest announced, you sounded famous. Like, Taylor Swift for moms. I will cling to that forever. And, if that weren't enough unexpected spotlight for 1 month, my old high school health teacher, the one who handed out bananas and condoms with a wink, messaged me asking if I'd join her for a Zoom session with this year's seniors. She wanted a real-world voice. I said yes and then double-checked with my therapist like 20 times, but it felt powerful, knowing these kids might be handed a different story about bodily autonomy and adult partnership than the cautionary tales most of us got. If only every woman could arm 20 teenagers with her collected wisdom, mistakes and all. Which brings me to the next cosmic curveball, my ex's girlfriend, book club Erica. Far from being some awkward, resentful foil, she's quietly become an unexpected ally. We've discovered a shared love of cheesy disaster movies, and, after a sleepover at their place, I got a text from her, your kids asked for my opinion on period underwear. I hope that's okay. Am I mature because I was genuinely delighted? Maybe just, so thoroughly at ease with my body and boundaries now that sharing that trust, having another empowering adult woman nearby for my kids, for myself, isn't threatening. It's just, how a village works. My daughter's words at bedtime, I like Erica. She said periods are like the full moon, magical but kind of a mess. 7-year-old wisdom, right? Okay, so what about me and my weird little renaissance? Spontaneity, it turns out, is highly contagious post-divorce. My sister and our uterus power squad staged a tacky camping weekend at the state park, s'mores with vegan marshmallows, tent karaoke, a contest for worst hiking outfit. I won, leopard leggings, dayglow socks, and a cowboy hat. In the firelight, surrounded by women who know precisely what it's like to rearrange a life brick by brick, I felt this rush of pride. We weren't starting over, just starting something honest, finally, a squad of grown women howling at the stars. Who gets a girl gang after 30? Apparently me. And here's a twist I truly didn't expect, I sent my first ever voice note on a dating app. Okay, technically I received the first, an utterly spectacular fail from a man whose entire pitch was, you look like you know about fiber supplements. But then a substitute teacher from the school board messaged me. He remembered me from the school wellness fair and congratulated me, with actual citations, for breaking the taboo. 5 exchanged messages later, I surprised myself. I smiled, in my kitchen, listening to his story about accidentally pantsing himself at field day and realized, I'm ready to try new things and not shrink away. We're meeting for tacos next week, both promising to dress offensively casual. Is it a fairy tale? Doubtful, but this time, I approach newness with zero apology for being complicated, a little nerdy, and extremely boundary forward. Tangible victories, I went rock climbing, real, actual ropes, no ex-husband saying you're not strong enough. I let my kids do their first lemonade stand. They undercharged, but made tips, and I convinced the Moms Club that our next book is not a thriller about dead wives, but a novel about women finding joy at 40. Slow, practical magic, and my latest checkup? Confirmed everything I'm feeling. My labs are stable, blood pressure normal, and the nurse actually said, you have the calmest body language of anyone I've seen this week. Little does she know my insides fizzed with caffeine and hope. If you're here for soap opera chaos, sorry. This is just slow, satisfying growth, a pile of small, weird wins stacking up to something like peace. If someone had told me, a year ago, when I was wrapped in hormonal fog and marital confusion, that my life's highlight would be a frog-obsessed daughter, a radio interview, and a tattoo with my own rules etched to my skin, I'd have laughed bitterly. Now, I just laugh. Like, really, really laughter, with all my teeth. So, next time you see a group of women shrieking with laughter on a picnic bench while their wild children wage a mud war nearby, think of me. This is not happily ever after, but it is exactly enough.